10 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. At this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order. And this special call meeting is for discussion of our superintendent search process and the hiring of a new superintendent. We've come to light and realized that there's a few things that we did not know since we are going to need a superintendent mid-year versus the end of the year. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Orr and kind of let her talk about some things with us. We have joining us today our board attorney, Regina Jackson, for further discussions.
Yeah, so I probably will turn it over to Regina and just let her kind of talk a little bit about the statute, and then she's here available for questions if you all have any at that point. Ms. Regina?
Sure. Well, good morning, and it's very good to see all of you. And you don't know what you don't know. Seems like I've been saying that a lot lately to myself. Anyway, I had asked Ms. Orr to give you a copy of the superintendent selection statute, and that's 16350, and I believe she has done that. And I wanted you to have that in front of you because that really is, there's another statute that talks about the screening committee, but this is the main statute that governs the hiring of the superintendent. And so I thought we could just review that briefly, and then we can talk about where you currently are and where you might be able to go from here. So paragraph 1 of the statute is really the only relevant paragraph for purposes of our discussion, and that paragraph says, after considering the recommendations of the screening committee as provided in 16352, each Board of Education shall appoint a superintendent of schools whose term of office shall begin on July 1. That's typical, following the individual's appointment. The appointment may be for a term of no more than 4 years. In the event, so this next sentence applies to your situation. In the event a vacancy occurs in the office of superintendent prior to the expiration of the term set by the board, so that would be the end of Ms. Orr's current contract, the term shall expire on the date the vacancy occurs. So here for Ms. Orr, that's December the 1st. Therefore, the board may appoint a superintendent for a new term as provided in this subsection, which shall begin on the date of the superintendent's appointment, except when the vacancy occurs after a school board election and before the newly elected members take office, which is unfortunately, again, your situation. When a vacancy occurs during this period, the position shall not be filled until the new members take office, but the board may appoint an acting superintendent to serve a term not to exceed 6 months. This appointment may be renewed once for a period not to exceed 3 months. So that's really, that's the most relevant part of the statute. And from the statute, you can see that you are not able, as a board, to have 2 superintendents at one time. You can only have 1 superintendent at a time, and the vacancy occurs at the time that you have notice, that the notice is given to you of when the current superintendent is going to be leaving. So here, the vacancy occurs on, I guess, December 2nd to be, because Ms. Orr, you had announced December 1 as your retirement date, right?
No, November 30th is my retirement date, so December 1
November 30th. Okay, so December 1 would be when the vacancy in your situation occurs. So you cannot have, under the current set of circumstances, you cannot have a replacement superintendent until November the 1st. So unless we're able to work out some other
November 1st 1st or December 1st?
arrangement.
December 1st?
December 1st?
Right.
December 1st.
Yes,
correct.
that is correct.
Okay. I believe you said November 1st. That's why everyone said that.
Okay, say that again, I'm sorry.
I believe you said the new superintendent could not be put in place until November 1st. That's why everyone said.
Oh, I'm sorry, December.
Okay.
December 1st. Yeah, December the 1st. So that, under the resignation or retirement that Ms. Orr gave you would make the vacancy available on December the 1st. And that is when you could normally put someone in place, but because of the wording in the statute between the election and the swearing in of the new board members, the statute does not allow you to act to appoint someone if the vacancy is occurring in that window. So your first available opportunity to appoint someone is after your new board members are sworn in. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me pause there and see if you all have questions.
I would just say I would love for us to figure out a way to make it work to where we can go ahead and move forward with the search that's already started.
Absolutely.
So I was wondering if Tessa, if she was willing, if she changed her, when she's stepping down as superintendent to like July 1st, and then we post a position for an advisor to the superintendent, and the new superintendent would select that person. And I thought, I've just tried to brainstorm different ways to figure it out. And I wondered if we could change our salary schedule to say if you've been a superintendent in Muhlenberg County for 4+ years, this would be your salary if you're full-time. And then even if Contessa wasn't selected by the new superintendent to be that advisor, that she would still have her pay with whatever position she landed in between July 1st and December 1st. Would that work?
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And it's still, I mean, because she would still be under the same pay scale that she would be as superintendent, so it would not affect her retirement pay at all. You know, because we are not going to lessen her pay, so her pay would be the same. Her title would be different.
Yes.
And I want to throw in there as well, we love Contessa, and we want to be able to accommodate what she needs. We also love our school system, and we want to be able to move forward with the selection committee because we truly believe as a board that that is in the best interest of the school system.
Oh, no question.
I'm not for interim position at all. I want a full new superintendent starting July 1st.
Say that again, I'm sorry, I had a little trouble.
He wants to not do like an interim. He would like our superintendent to be hired and in place by July 1.
The thing
Yeah, that's, sure, that's very logical.
The thing of it is like, Logan and I are both new board members. I mean, I have a long history of being in education, but the thing of it is, if I had have come on the board and had to have hired a superintendent to begin my term, I would not have felt like I was adequately prepared for that decision. And I just, you know, and I really feel like I have a vast knowledge of education. But I do not feel like I would have been prepared to hire a superintendent to lead our school. I agree with that, Jan. And as a new board member coming in, we take classes on selecting a new superintendent. And when I took my classes, I thought that was vitally important to me to be able to understand the impact that the hiring of this position has on our system, because it does impact everyone.
Oh, absolutely. It is a critical to do what you know is in the best interest of your district. My role is just to try to keep it as legal as we possibly can, knowing that the perfectly legal way to do it is to wait. That is the perfectly legal way to do it, and that is to, since we already have Ms. Orr's resignation in place, and that's been announced as being November the 30th, and just to follow the letter of the law, the process would, in a perfect world, you would appoint that new superintendent, you would appoint an acting superintendent for a period of time, and then a year from now be going through this process again. I understand you don't want to do that. So I've been trying to give this a lot of thought, and I appreciate everything you've already said so far. I tried to structure some notes here on how you might go about
Can I say
going back
something?
a little bit and then going forward again. What's that?
Okay, can I say something? We would still have to leave her retirement at that date because she would have to leave the school system for X amount of days if her retirement were June 30th. So we would just have to word that we were changing her title or her employment, because if she were to say she was leaving the school system June 30th, then you have to be away from the school system X amount of time before you can be hired back. So she could still leave her retirement at that day. Could we as a board just change her, we're just changing her title of what she...
Well, there's a division of authority that you all, I know you all are aware of this, so I kind of sketched out what I think the steps would be, and that would be that Ms. Orr would need to, in writing, I don't know exactly what it would say, but something along the lines that she is requesting a change in her resignation from the position of superintendent from November 30 to June 30 of 2026, provided that and conditioned on alternate certified employment in the district with pay equivalent to her current salary. So, and I probably didn't say that as artfully as we could write it down. But that would be, I think, the first step, is that, would never, and I know you wouldn't either, Contessa would need to make her agreement to do this contingent on the district ensuring that she's not going to make any less in terms of pay through the date of her retirement from the district. So she's going to resign from her superintendent position contingent upon a position being made available to her that is equivalent in pay to her current salary. And then, and this could, I'm sure, be done all at one meeting, the board would need to create a new position that would be designed for Ms. Orr to transfer into, and would need to amend the salary schedule to fit that circumstance. And then the district, once that position is created, effective, I guess, July 1, would need to post the position for 15 days because of the posting requirement by statute. And then the new superintendent, because of the division of authority, would have to be the one to fill that position. The board does not have the authority superintendent vacancy. So that structure, probably could work. It's not perfect. It's not completely clean, like just doing the normal process would be. But I think it's, on balance, I'm trying to think of who might challenge that kind of process. And I had talked with Ms. Orr. She had asked me, well, who might challenge whatever the board decides to do? And I said, well, some anonymous person could make a complaint to the OEA, the Office of Education Accountability, and they could, get in there and conduct some kind of investigation and find that what you have done is a sham because of the historical documents that have already been generated. You've already got a resignation from Ms. Orr stating November 30 and all of that, and you've already taken steps through board action to fill a vacancy as of July 1 when there's not one. So could somebody challenge it? Possibly. I'm not saying that would be likely. It could two new board members in January challenge it because they didn't get the chance to fill the position. I guess that's possible too, but not likely.
And I understand what you're saying, and I don't really understand or appreciate the word sham, because we were not aware as a board that, and I don't think Ms. Orr was aware of this, of 160.350, just because of the timing. If we had known about this, we would have done this months ago. So we're not trying to cover anything up. We're simply trying to do what we feel as a board that is in place right now is best for our district.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a shame. Please don't think that. I'm saying somebody might argue that. That could be, somebody's argument. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. And I know you're trying to do what's best for the district, and that it just from a timing standpoint, you did not know
Right.
what the exact next step should have been. So don't take that as me saying it's a shame. I don't think it's a shame at all. I'm just saying some person out there might try to argue that.
I understand.
Y'all still, yeah.
So, Ms. Jackson, if this all worked out and we were able to move forward with this plan, would we have to redo the whole beginning of the superintendent search, or can we pick up from where we suspended it last week?
Well, tell me where it stands now. Has the window for applications closed, or what?
Closed Friday.
Okay, and have you all, the screening committee is scheduled to start their process, or where is that?
Yeah, well, we had a meeting scheduled for Friday, but I sent an email and told them that it was off as of right now.
Okay.
They had already been decided upon, the screening
Yeah.
committee, and they had intentions to meet, I
We're
think,
gonna-
this last Friday for their orientation period for that, to move forward. But after we had discussion about all of this, I told Bridget to just hold that until we had our meeting to discuss further today as to what we needed to do.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me from a practicality standpoint for you all to just start the process over.
Okay.
That doesn't seem like that makes sense. Let me look at the action that you all took back in February. So I think you would have to, let's see.
I've got that brought up.
Vacancy. You all accepted Contessa's retirement notice. So we would have to, the board would have to take some action to rescind that action based on new notice to the board.
Can we do that today?
No, because you don't have from Contessa her request to change her superintendent, changing her duties from superintendent to a new position. So I think that would be the very next step, is to get a request from Contessa stating that she desires to resign her position as superintendent, contingent upon those things we talked about.
Okay.
And once we have that in hand, then I think the board would take some steps that we would need to think about and get, down on paper. But basically, you would accept her decision to change her superintendent term, contingent upon those conditions that she's going to need to have in place. And we would probably ratify the prior action of the board to approve your in-house selection process and approve your board designee as process lead, and perhaps need to modify the selection process timeline.
Okay.
So I could see that those things would need to be done. And then I think you could do this all in one meeting, but I don't think we could possibly figure out how to do that today. We would need to create a new position. We would need a job description to support that new position. And we would need to figure out the amendment to the salary schedule.
So maybe we could meet next week.
Yeah, I would think that the sooner you all can meet and get these things in place, the better. There are a few moving parts. You've got the salary schedule and the job description and the resignation, changing Contessa's resignation. So, but we can work on all that and get that ready.
So do you recommend what kind of job
Title.
that we should use? I mean, I know there was some discussion about maybe an advisory or consultant to the board, or the superintendent, not the board, the superintendent, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it consultant. Typically, a consultant is an independent contractor type of arrangement, and Contessa needs to remain an employee. So it might be advisor to superintendent. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. What do you all need?
We need an advisor to the superintendent.
I mean, you're gonna have a brand new spanking superintendent who
Right.
I'm sure would welcome, the assistance that Contessa could obviously provide. So,
Let
we
me
can work on a good name, I think.
Let me ask you this. Once we did this, would we keep this in place, in case this happened again? Or, would you say this position is no longer available? Or what would you do?
I think I would end the salary schedule ended, because you don't want your superintendent to, if you've got a vacant position, that means the superintendent can go out and fill it at any time. And I don't think you want to be spending superintendent dollars,
Yeah.
double. I think
Yes.
you want to pay somebody double.
That's what
for an indefinite
yeah.
period.
That's what I thought.
So-
Okay. So,
Yeah.
just wait for the next situation to come up for another board.
Yeah, that's right. Right. You all can train up another board somewhere out there having similar situation.
Can you go over, I know it kind of seems like we are wanting to try to do what we just discussed, but can you just also, for open meeting purposes and discussion, if anyone's not able to join and wants to watch later, what the process would look like if we continued and did like, let her leave as superintendent on November 30th, and then go through that process of like an interim superintendent and what that would look like. Because I do want to say this, since we've been on the board, I believe it was your first board meeting or so, we did have to have new board members vote on whether or not to renew a contract of a superintendent. They were new board members. They were faced with having to make a decision, not having been in the school system to make, to know different things that could have led up to why they should or should not, be renewed. So this is kind of similar, only with hiring a new superintendent. So I just want to kind of talk through that process of, the potential of if we did not do this, if we did go through hiring an interim, how that would look.
Yeah, so what you would need to do is rescind all of the action that you previously taken in regard to the superintendent hiring process. So then it would just stop. The current process would stop and end. And Ms. Orr would continue to stay in place as superintendent through November 30. And because her retirement is in that election window, you could not begin the hiring process for a new superintendent until early next year, anytime next year, really. So you have the option under the statute to hire an acting superintendent. And I had sent Stephanie, I sent you an example contract just so you could see what that looked like. But essentially, that person would assume the duties and responsibilities of superintendent on a temporary basis until you started this process over, very much the same way you have in place now with the posting of the superintendent position next spring, taking applications, appointing the screening committee, all of this, deciding on approving a timeline, interviewing candidates. So the whole process would just essentially start over. And that acting superintendent could stay in place up to 9 months, but doesn't have to be. Just could be up to the time that you have hired your new person. So you could hire that new person sooner than July 1 because you've got an open vacancy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't like that idea.
So do we need to take any action today, or?
I'll say that.
Do we need to take any action today, or?
I
Regina?
lost you all just for a second. Is there consensus that the board wants to move forward with kind of undoing, redoing so that you can get somebody in place by July 1? Is that the consensus?
Yes.
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 Okay. Is there any further need to discuss that then?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, then I would suggest that there's no action to be taken today for the minutes, which is to indicate no action taken, and that you all would decide when you can meet again, and I can work with Contessa on what I think her letter needs to look like to the board, and work on some motions for you all to get you all in the best place that we can to hire somebody July 1 and lead the application process and all of that. Just, I know it's paused at the moment, but not go back and redo, but just ratify up to this point what where the process is, and perhaps modify the timeline a little bit.
Okay.
How does that sound?
That sounds
Perfect.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Are you good with that, Ms. Orr?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, then that And when would you all think you all would meet again?
I think as soon as possible.
How long does it take dinner from?
Like, you might want me to be there just to make sure we don't have any, we can do it this way, I could do it Zoom, but, and if you don't need me, that's fine. Just trying to be sure that there's no questions about the motions or anything.
31st or 1st works for me.
I'm gonna be in New Orleans, but it'll be by Zoom, won't it?
You fix a Zoom?
I can do the 31st or 1st.
Yeah. It'll probably be either the 31st or the 1st. Probably the 1st. I mean.
Let me see, like,
And it can be anytime on the 1st.
I can do any.
Anytime. What's your schedule?
Oh, yeah, I can do any time on the 1st.
Okay. Okay. First. What time?
Anytime.
I can do anytime.
Okay. We want to do like a morning or 10 o'clock.
Regina, do you have availability on April the 1st?
I do, yeah, that day will work well for me. And I might not be needed, but I can just put it on my calendar and be on standby if you need me. I can be planned to 10.
Thank you.
10 o'clock, maybe, work for you
10?
on the
Yeah.
1st?
Central?
Yeah. Okay. We'll just plan to meet again on the 1st at 10 o'clock then. Since that was the easiest time we've ever had trying to
Thank you for your help.
Yes, we appreciate everything and being available.
You all are welcome, sure, anytime. And we'll keep working at it till we get it done.
Okay, thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, any other discussion?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, have a motion.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Bard. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none, and we are adjourned. Thank you.